going on. And there's a lot of questions on my end too, so don't think you're in the unknown, because I'm definitely in the unknown with a lot of things. So I'll post some more information about due dates and try to be a little bit more clear about them. I'll Next week I'll probably post them Sunday night or Monday morning. But physical daily practices are not due as of right now. They will probably be due next week. So right now the only thing that I'm requiring you to do is Khan Academy. So just focus on that. If you want to do daily practices, read next week's post and I'll kind of explain more of what you need to do. Okay. So we're adding, subtracting, and multiplying radicals. And the one thing when you add and subtract radicals is the radicand, which is what's under the radical, has to be exactly the same, and it has to be the same type of radical. So you can't mix a square root and a cube root together. Okay. But what's kind of annoying about this is that you have to simplify a lot. So I'm going to do number 1 and 3, but not 2 and 4, just because I think we're going to run out of room. Or I'll run out of room while doing this, okay? So you have to simplify that radical of 27. Hold on, that pen's way too thick for this to work. Okay. And you have to go through that whole process that we do of dividing. So we're going to divide by the prime numbers. Remember, it's 2, 3, 5, or 7. Those are the numbers we're focusing on. If you divide by 3, you get 9. If you divide by 3 again, you get 3. And since it's a square root, everything comes out in pairs. So it makes this pair of 3. That 3 gets multiplied to the 2 over here, and you get 6 square root of 3. And then we're going to do the same thing with 12. I'm going to divide it by 3 just because I can. You can divide by 2. It doesn't make a difference. That gets you 4. Now we're going to divide by 2 because it's the only factors of 4, and you get the pair of 2's, and that gets kicked out. So you're going to multiply the 2 with this 2 already there, which gives you 4, and you're left with the square root of 3 because that's all by itself. Now, if we had something that was like 6x minus 4x, you would tell me it's 2x, okay? So what you're doing with this is you're only taking the 6 and the 4 into consideration, and the x just kind of tells you that you can put them together. It's the same with this. You're going to take 6 minus 4, and the square root of 3 just drops down, okay? So moving on to number 3. You have 3 problems to work with, but you have to be very careful with the index of the radical. And the index of the radical is what's right here. Since there's no number here, it's a square root. This is a cube root, and this is a square root. So we have to be careful about what we can put together. 28's even, so I'm going to divide it by 2, and that gets you 14. Divide that by 2, and you get 7, and that makes a pair. Remember, square roots, everything comes out in a pair. So we're going to take the pair of 2's, just 2, times 10, and you get 20, and you're left over with the square root of 7. Okay, I'm going to do the 175 real quick to keep the square roots and then do the cube root. So 175, it's divisible by 5. Okay, and you're going to hear my calculator. And get 35, and divide that by 5 because it's divisible by 5, and you get 7, which is prime. So 5 and 5, that's the only pair, and that will kick out to the outside. And 5 times 4 is 20, so you get the square root of 20 square root of 7. Now with the 56, the first thing you have to notice is that there's a negative right here. That gets kicked out because it's a cube root. That only happens with odd powers, not even. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and simplify the 56. Well, 56 is divisible by 2. And that gets you 28. And that's also divisible by 2, which gets you 14. That's even, so it's divisible by 2. And then you're left with 7. Okay? This is a pair. That gets kicked out to the outside. And the 2 and 7 stay on the inside. And you need to put this little radical. Okay, so this is a cube root. These are square roots. So you can only put square roots with square roots and cube roots with cube roots as long as they have the same thing underneath. So 20 minus 20 is 0. So these go away. And it just leaves you with this. And that's your answer. Okay? So adding and subtracting is not too bad. You kind of think of them like x's or variables. It's the same concept, essentially. But the biggest thing is you have to simplify the radicals first, okay? You absolutely have to simplify the radicals as much as you can. All right, now multiplying is really easy. I always say outside with outside and inside with inside. And that sounds really goofy, but if you follow it, it actually makes perfect sense. And what I'm saying is the outside multiplies with the outside values, and the inside of the radical multiply with the inside. The rule states that you're allowed to do that. Let me write that over here. No matter what type of radical. But you're also allowed to go backwards. So you can separate or you can put them together. It doesn't matter which way you go. But when you're multiplying, the insides go together and the outsides go together. And I think it's easier to simplify once. So it's a lot easier if you multiply and then simplify. Some people simplify each radical, multiply, and then have to simplify again. So it's just easier to do it all at once at the end. So you're going to take 27 times 5, which is 135. So just to show you what we're doing this. That's a multiplication sign, not a decimal. And you get 135. And then you're going to take 135 and you're going to simplify it. So 135 is obviously divisible by 5. We already figured that out. And then 27, and then 3, and then divide it by 3 again, and you get 3. So this is a pair. This is not a pair, so it's left on the inside, and you get 3 square root of 15. Okay? So moving on to number 6. Remember how I said inside with inside, outside with outside. So outside with outside, so 3 times negative 2, sorry, is negative 6, and square root of 10 and the square root of 18 is 180. And then from there, we just simplify. So this is just like what we did in the last unit. So you're going to take 180 divided by 2, and that's 90. And divide it by 2, and you get 45. 45 is not divisible by 2, so we have to pick another number. I'm going to go with 5, which gives you 9. And 9 is not divisible by 5 either, so we have to go with 3. So we have a pair here. We have a pair here. Those pairs go on the outside. So 2 and 3 is 6. So I'm just going to write this out. We have negative 6 times 2 times 3 times the square root of 5. So 2 and 3 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. So you get negative 36 square root of 5. And that's all it is. Okay, that's all it takes. I'm going to go ahead and do 7 with you, but I'm not going to do all of these. I don't think it's necessary. We've done radicals for quite a bit. So I'll do number 7 and 9 with you. But I'm not going to do 8 and 10. Okay, so outside with outside, inside with inside. That gets you 10. Now this negative has to get kicked out. So I'm going to kick it out here now. And you're going to take 9 times 24. And we're going to notice that we're working with the cube root, so things change a little bit. And you get 216. And if you know your perfect squares, 6 cubed is 216, so it actually comes out right as, I said squared, 6 cubed is 216, so it comes out right away, and you'd get negative 60, but I'm just going to prove it to you. So if you take 216, divide that by 2, you get 108, divide that by 2, and you get 54, divide that by 2, it's going to take a while, and you get 27, and divide that by 3, you get 9, and then 3 and 3. So this is a pair. Ooh, did I mess up somewhere? Oh, no, I didn't. I messed up what I was saying. This is a cube root, so I'm not doing things in pairs. We're doing things in groups of 3, so ignore that circle. That's a group of 3. That's a group of 3. 2 times 3 is 6, and you would take that times the 10, which is negative 60. Okay, so now with some variables. Same process. You're going to multiply the inside with the inside and the outside with the outside. The outside is 1, and that's 5, so you have 5. And then you have 6 times 8, which is 48. And then the x's, you have to remember you're adding exponents when you multiply. You add exponents when you multiply, so it's x to the 9th power. And we are in square roots. So let's first simplify the numbers. We're going to take 48 divided by 2, which is 24. Divide that by 2, and you get 12. Divide it by 2, and you get 6. And one more time, and you get 3. We have one group of 2 and another group of 2, or 2 pairs of 2s. So those are going to get multiplied to the outside, and I'm just going to show again how that's working. That 3 is left on the inside, and now we have to work with this power. Now we have to remember that exponents, you're asking how many pairs of 9 you can make out of it, which is the same thing as dividing by 2. And if you divide by 2, 2 times 4 is 8, and then it's a remainder of 1. That remainder goes to the inside, and what you divided by, that answer, is going to the outside. So you get 5 times 2 times 2, which is 20, x to the 4th power, square root of 3x. So not too bad. All right, let's move on to the next page. And we're just going to do this all in one go, okay? This is distributing, foiling, do not distribute that 2 through, foiling, okay? So I'm going to do this distributing one and 13 and 14 because it has a variable, but I'm not going to do 12 just for, so this video is not too long, okay? Now this is 1 square root of 10 times 5 square root of 5. So we're doing what we just did in the last few examples, outside with outside, so 5. And then you get the square root of 50. And then you're going to multiply this with this, you get minus 2 square root of 20. Okay? So we're going to have to simplify the 50. So we're going to divide by 2, and then divide by 5, and divide by 5. That gets you a pair. That goes to the outside, so we're going to take 5 times 5, and then the square root of 2 is left on the inside. And then we have to do 20, and that gets you 2. Or you divide by 2, sorry. That gets you 10, divide by 2, and that gets you 5. So you have 2 times 2 square root of 5. All right, so 5 times 5 is 25. We know that. And 2 and 2 is 4. But you can't take this any farther because these two do not have the same thing. So you cannot combine because they don't have the same value under the radical. So cannot combine. This is your answer. Okay? So 13, my pet peeve, top 5 of my pet peeves, is you cannot distribute that 2. Don't think about it. Don't do it. Don't break my heart. Even though I'm not seeing you do it, don't do it. Okay, this means that you have 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, so you have to remember, like, 2 squared means 2 times 2. Okay, same here. This is squared, so it means 2 of them are multiplied. I would like for you to do this problem on your own. See how far you can get without me. If you get it finished, then awesome. And if you can't, no big deal. So go ahead and do this problem. Restart the video once you either get stuck or you're done. All right, so pause the video now. All right, now that you've unpaused the video, we're going to go ahead and FOIL this. So we're going to take 4 to 4, which is 16. 4 to 5, which is negative 4 square root of 5. Here to here, I'm always going to write the numbers outside the radical first, and we're going to put this together. And there's a trick with this, and we're going to talk about it. You're going to take 5 and 5, which is 25. Okay, and you have to watch negative times a negative is a positive. We've talked about this earlier in the year. If you're multiplying the same value with a square root only, it kind of just cancels out and you're left with the 5. Okay, and the proof is the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so you can go the long way, you can go the short way, it doesn't matter. I'm going to write it like this. 6 plus 5 is 21, and then you can combine these two because they have the same thing under the radical, and you get 8 square root of 5, and that is your answer. Oops. Okay. Let's go ahead and do 14 real quick, and then we'll talk about 15. Okay, so on 14, you have to multiply the first two terms. The square root of x times the square root of x is x. Square root of x to the 2 is 2 square root of x. Here to here is square root of 8x, and here to here is negative 2 square root of 8. All right, so let's talk about what we did. Square root of x times the square root of x is the square root of x squared, and we just talked about it on 13, which makes x. So I simplified that right away. These two, this is technically 2 on the outside, and it multiplies to the 1, and the square root of x is the only radical, so it stays. These two are both radicals, so this is what is the result of it, inside with inside. And then 2's on the outside, that's on the inside of the radical, so you can't combine it, and that's what you have. Okay, so we need to simplify, and that's the kind of the worst part about this. So we're going to take 8. That's the only thing we can simplify. So divide it by 2, and you get 4. Divide it by 2, and you get 2, and that's a pair. So what ends up happening is you get 2 square root of x. These stay the same. This 8's going to pop out as 2 square root of 2x, and this is going to become, because 8 as well here, it's going to become 4 square root of 2. Okay. You can't combine anything, so that's your answer. These are not the same underneath, so that's you're done with. Okay, I'm just going to talk about 15. We're not actually going to do it. Just remember what perimeter is. It means you're adding all 4 sides. So if this is the perimeter, you're going to take 4 minus the square root of 6 plus the 7 square root of 6 plus the square root of 3. Okay, so those are those 2 sides, but you have 2 more to add, and you have to do the same thing twice. So then you have this. I'm running out of room. And then this. So perimeter, remember, is adding up all the sides. Area is multiplying the lengths. So if we were doing area of this, we would have this. And I don't think we need to go over it, so I'm not going to. It's exactly what we've been doing, but just to talk about how it works with geometry. All right, if you have any questions, comment, email, Message me on my remind, whatever you need to do. Have a great day. Hope this is going well. Stay safe. Bye.